Oh, hello, and welcome to a slightly drizzly July day. Now, it might seem a bit incongruous to those of you that are only just starting to harvest your first earlies, but you know, in July, that's when I actually start to plant. Before I've even harvested my first earlies, that's when I start to plant my Christmas potatoes. Yes, I'm already looking forward to the time of year that begins with C. Somewhat unusually, I grow the vast majority of my potatoes towards the end of the season. The reason being is that if I can get the potatoes to finish just as the frost sets in, that means they have come out of the ground and they're fully sized right at the end of the season. Whereas if I did it and harvested my potatoes at the end of July, which is fairly typical, first week of August, they've got 2 months less time in sacks, which obviously means that they stay fresher for longer. Now, for Christmas potatoes, I tend to grow Charlotte for a number of reasons. Charlotte is a second early, however, it stores incredibly well. It stores very much more like a main crop, particularly if you leave it till the foliage to die back. You can grow main crop potatoes. I've grown, in fact we'll probably try to do some again this year. I've grown King Edwards and other main crop potatoes. Started at this time of year and done extremely well. I did a big potato trial last year, where I grew first early, second earlies and main crops on the 1st, or planted them on the 1st of February, the 1st of April, 1st of June, and 1st of August. And I got crops out of basically all of them. I even tried some in September, and the main crops in on the 1st of September planted, and I even got some new potatoes out of that. So the potato season is a lot longer than people give it credit for. Now, the typical average timescale expected for a second early is about 14 weeks, 12 to 14 weeks. However, those are spring planted second earlies. With the ground being that much warmer and having that much more daylight length, what you'll actually find is that second earlies planted at this time of year will finish much earlier. The main crops that I planted on the 1st of June last year were out by the second week of August. So they've only had June, July, so that's 10 weeks, and they'd completed, and they were good sized. You know, they're not huge, but they were good sized, and the foliage had started to yellow off. So yeah, they will grow faster. Don't believe the standard turnaround times for planting to harvest, because temperature and water and sunlight hours make a huge difference to how quickly they grow and reproduce. Now, for those of you that grow regularly in tubs, Charlottes are a second early, and by that nature, it means that they are. I don't like to use the word determinate and indeterminate, because they're predominantly used for tomatoes and it confuses people. But essentially, main crops typically will send up a spike of stem, and they'll grow potatoes all the way up that stem. So you want to plant them as deep as humanly possible to get the maximum yield. However, Charlottes, being a second early, aren't like that. They grow all of their potatoes on a single layer. And what I like to do for second earlies is I allow them slightly deeper underlying compost. So if I show you this, that's probably 3 inches of compost in there before it hits the base. If I was planting a first early, that would be half that depth, because I'd want the maximum height the tubers to grow. But because these will all grow at a single layer, I'm happy to give them a little more depth to get the roots into it and to draw nutrient out of. Speaking of nutrients, I apply 2 things. Some of this potato fertiliser, little sprinkle, and some of this bloodfish and bone. This is generic household recycled waste compost, nothing special. And to here I'll put 3 seed potatoes like this to maximise the yield. You can, if you're so inclined, and I don't think it makes much difference, do 2 on opposing, put another layer of compost, and then 2 crosswise to maximise the layers. However, I feel that encroaches on the layer and tends to push it down, and you waste a lot of seed potatoes. I much prefer the 3 in the base principle. That's always worked well for me. Yeah, so all I'll do is I'll do that to, I think I've got about 14 or 15 buckets. I'll do that to all of them, get these filled up, and then because I'm lazy and it's 160 feet from here to where they need to live on the end of the plot, I'm going to load them in the car, drive around the end of the plot and unload them, and I'll bring you back once I've actually got them into situ. I've got them all prepped and in situ. I'll show you the potatoes that I've got in the beds that are close to harvest. I mean, probably I'll because my family tend to like, I've got 4 children, we tend to eat most of our potato products as mashed potato or chips or baked potatoes. We need large potatoes for that. Well, our preference is for large potatoes. We don't eat a lot of baby new potatoes. That's more of a delicacy and a treat for those that have the space to grow potatoes for a relatively modest yield, whereas we're 4 kids, we're much more about high yield and usability for us. So typically we leave all of our spuds in the ground until the hulls yellow significantly and die off, and effectively you can see there's no more photosynthesis going to happen and no more growth on the potatoes or tubers, and then we pull them, so they stay in the ground a lot longer than some. But I'll show you what we've got so far. I'll also take you to some of the raised beds in the back garden, and I'll show you planting some of those out as well, and I'll see you in a moment. Right, here we go. They're all next to the polytunnel. There is 16 buckets there. I've probably got another 6, maybe 7 at home that are currently full of manure, shall we say, from the chicken run, which need to come here and be added to the compost heap, and then that'll free up the buckets to be used for this. What I will do in a moment is I'll give these a good drenching, a good watering. You know, if I can get 22, 23 buckets of spuds, I'll do quite well. Having said that, I put 3 in each of these. I did have a bag of the seed potatoes that had very small seed potatoes by comparison, so I put 4 in those just for purposes of transparency. Yeah, if we have a look at the potato beds as they currently stand. So this bed was first earlies all the way down to about here, and it went second earlies onto the second bed up to about there, and then main crops, a variety of whatever I happen to have knocking around. These first earlies got very badly hit by the frost. Yeah, they haven't done so well. They look very weedy. I'll leave these until they're yellow. I've probably got, I think, 4 weeks before these are tapped out and I can lift them. And probably a little longer for the second earlies, but they survived much better because they'd only just poked the very tips out, whereas first earlies were quite a ways above ground when they got bitten by the frost. And of course main crop, which are looking fabulous. That's probably 2.5 feet off the base of the bed, so yeah, in total they're about 3 feet high. Weren't even above the surface yet, so they really weren't affected. They're looking very nice indeed. That's a much wider bed, so wider than it seemed from the other angle. So there's a lot of potatoes in here. Yeah, so be interesting to see what kind of harvest we get out of that. But yeah, I'll I'll bring you back in a few minutes when I get home to show you what I'm doing in the beds at home. Okay, for those of you that will remember, there was a potato plant, first early, just here. This particular first early was not looking great. It had got very moth-eaten, very much like this sort of condition here. And there wasn't a lot left of it, so I decided I'll hoik it up. If I get a couple of potatoes out of the bottom, I'll be happy. What I've actually got is quite a lot of new potatoes. Very happy. If I'd have realised it was going to be that big a haul, I would have videoed the whole thing and done a potato reveal for you. But it does let me know that A, there are potatoes there, and B, even the sickliest looking first early can produce a reasonable crop. As I start to lift these, I will now video the whole reveal for you. I don't know if you can tell, but this is a second early. It's going quite yellow. It's got flowers on. I reckon another 3 weeks or so, and that one will be ready for harvest. And of course, I've got more first earlies over here. Although whilst they are still vibrant green, I'm going to leave them in because there were still plenty of growing to do. All of these have flowered and died back now. So all of these, I mean, they're on the last runs of flowering now. These ones, I think, have just got to come down the far end. These are second earlies, but all of the first earlies have now finished flowering, or have flowered and now died back. So these will start to be harvested over the next few weeks. Yeah, very happy with that. Very happy indeed. I didn't realise it was going to be that good. The two seed potatoes that had come out were in excellent condition, so I've shoved them back in. So we may have more potatoes from the same seed. I'll weigh these for you in a minute when I get home, just so I can, and I'll tack that onto one of the videos I've recorded but not published yet. And I'll see you on the next one. Okay, let's do a little weigh up of these potatoes that I dug from my skimpiest looking potato. Let's reset that because it's turned itself off. Let's put all these in, just lightly washed. These will be our dinner later or tomorrow. Okay. From one plant we've got just over a kilo. Yeah, £2 4 ounces. It's not bad at all, really, from one plant, and particularly when it's the worst plant. Yeah, very happy. Very much looking forward to starting to harvest other potatoes as the season goes on. These had been in the ground quite a long time for first earlies. 15 weeks, just about. So quite a long time. But given that we had that massive frost which killed off all the top growth twice in space of a week, I was quite impressed with what we've got here. I'll be even more impressed when I start to move on to some of the other first earlies that weren't so checked. Really keen and interested to see what we get from those, and then the others as they move through the season. Yeah, very happy. Right, I'll see you later.